Of course, most people would leave. Terrible sanitation. Something went wrong. Some kind of chemical weapon. Of course, everyone was shocked. Immunity can't fight against a crime.
I'm sorry.
I was also attacked twice. Everybody was always beating me. You always want to do what you can't. There was no one else to see.
So, you didn't fly to the sea that summer, did you? You think the coronavirus is the worst thing that could ever happen? And it was too expensive to travel before the pandemic? Find out how everything could have happened different. My name is Julia. People call me Julia from July. Today I have my own project, a travel magazine. Most people want to go to Europe first, and also to Asia, mainly Bali, Thailand, but in most cases this is Europe. And most of the requests come including for a Schengen visa. Long distance destinations such as USA, South America are not popular. Brazil, USA, Hungary.
This is my top 3.
Probably because each one is unique in its own way. Brazil is very piquant, everything there is new to us, so unusual, much different from Europe. That's why on the one hand the impressions are very ambiguous. On the other hand, we have been staying here for a very long time, both now and the last time I came here for 2 months. Therefore, the impressions are vivid enough. We met a lot of interesting people. Without any doubt, the most popular place is Brazil.
India and probably Georgian. Indian because it's very spicy, very tasty. I've been to India several years ago and I think the kitchen left the strongest impression on me. And people there are so open-minded, kind and friendly. Despite the fact that it is, of course, it's dirty and there is such a terrible lack of sanitation. At the same time, it was great, the food was delicious, and I probably would return there again with great pleasure.
What's your name? While holding my passport, I was asked my name. They also asked me, how old are you or where are you flying from? For example, we are flying from Moscow. Where are you flying from? From Moscow? Strange question. We were flying from Paris to Frankfurt. We had to fly from Frankfurt to Rio. Everything was supposed to be according to plan. We took off, and 2 hours later we saw the flight attendants begin to flick around, discussing something. It was immediately clear that something went wrong, and eventually we realized that one of the passengers felt bad. Then everyone put on these protective suits as if we had some kind of chemical weapon in there, and then they escorted one of the passengers to the first class, somewhere away from everyone else. But no one understood what was happening until the captain of the ship announced that one of the passengers didn't feel well, and then they were keeping in touch with the crowd to decide what to do next.
Guys, I have no words to describe how I'm shocked, because we took off at 10 p.m. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. And we're again at the Frankfurt airport from where we took off.
Of course, everyone was shocked because no one knew what was supposed to be next. Would we be sent somewhere for isolation because there was suspicion that he was infected with coronavirus? Or would we be transferred to another plane to fly back to Rio? Overall, it was such a mess. Everyone rushed to the airline's information desk, everyone was trying to sort things out, figure out what was the matter and what to do next. But the airline already had a solution by the time. We were given a voucher to check into a hotel which was located in the airport. And the next day, thank God, we took off successfully, everything went right. 11 hours flying and we finally ended up in Rio. Tomorrow it will be exactly 5 months that we're here in Rio de Janeiro. Of course, we didn't plan to be here for so long. Such an unusual experience, but also it's cool. We adapted despite the fact that it's winter here now and it's great winter. We don't have such summer like this in Russia. Good question. I think that's the local crime, because your immunity can cope with the coronavirus, but that can't fight against the crime.
When I just went into the mall, I saw that there wasn't a person who was standing there and measuring the temperature, but a special machine. When you come to it, such a face appears and the machine measures your temperature.
We were, not so long ago, witnesses of this when on the main embankment of the city, on Copacabana, just a young asshole, I'm sorry, there is no other name to call him. He snatched the phone from an elderly man and disappeared on a bicycle. It was certainly a shock. All this happened 2 meters from us. And the last time I was here in Rio for 2 months, I was also attacked twice. Of course it will end well, but it's still not safe. Somewhere or another you cannot just protect yourself from this. You don't know at what moment some kind of trouble awaits you. It's unpredictable because, for example, you can be robbed on the beach, but in a dark alley no one will come near you, and the coronavirus can be dealt with in one way or another. The body is strong, you need to have a temper.
We were kicked out. We talked to this wonderful guy on the bike. He said, "Guys, sorry, COVID and all about that. Go home." And actually, oops, no one left. Everyone started to leave when the police arrived and just turned the flashers on, but still not everyone got ready.
It is quite possible. I'll tell you even more. Being here in Rio a few years ago, I managed to live here for 2 months on $400. Therefore, if there is a desire, everything is possible. I used couch surfing, talked with locals, everybody was always feeding me on couch surfing, and I spent minimum of money on food. And relatively speaking, $200 was enough for me not only for a weekend, but generally for a whole month. Of course, everything depends on personal needs, on what plans you have in mind, but in general, certainly you can. My husband and I have been to New York in January, and via couch surfing we agreed to stay at a Russian guy's place. His name's Yura, and we didn't expect at all to live in such conditions. He works on Facebook, and he has a super cool Manhattan apartment overlooking Fifth Avenue. And in general, the guy turned to be open, friendly, kindly. And by the way, we got an excursion to Facebook. Of course, at first we went to eat there, everything can come, take a tray with food, something delicious to eat. On the other floor, for example, you can take ice cream or some kind of smoothies, freshly squeezed juice. All this is free. There are separate playrooms there. Very cool actually. We were impressed. I really couldn't have expected that. Probably exactly this host is remembered for his hospitality. I couldn't even imagine that I could get in the Facebook office there in New York. Well, could I think about it? No, especially now when you have been living abroad for a very long time. Now I really want to talk to them, because one way or another, here in Brazil there are very few people who speak English. Unfortunately, we don't speak Portuguese yet. If I met a Russian, I would love to talk to him, especially now. But all Russians are different, and everyone knows that. There are also little aggressive Russians, a little boorish. Of course, I would rather avoid people like that. But in general, it's still an interesting experience, especially finding Russians who live abroad. They are a little different, and it's always interesting to know their experience, how they got here, what happened, what to expect, what difficulties were there, and so on. I think they will, definitely, especially now, when there is no way to go somewhere, to go to those cities, countries that are now closed. It seems to me that if there would be an opportunity to fly somewhere in Europe now, of course most people would do it. And I think that even most of those who didn't have a passport will want to get one. And they will want to apply for a visa and fly. As when you're limited, you always want to do what you can't.
It's a resort town actually. Typical Sunday, the street is blocked, everyone is walking, weather is cool. Finally it got warmer, the whole beach is crowded there.
And I think that this is one of the reasons for the development of travel for us, Russians.
Everything has changed completely to us, because we started small. And now we have come to what we dreamed about 2 years ago. Once we have plans to leave the country, travel a lot, see as many cultures and countries as possible, keep score of countries, some blogs tell something, all this has become a reality during all this time. And it's very cool that we think in the same direction, that we have some common goals, and it helps us to develop. And that's great.
I really liked Alona's approach. I really liked the videos. When there was a preparation for the wedding, I did it myself, and I have reviewed a lot of various videographers and photographers. And I really liked her vision. I really liked the way she gave emotions. The music was amazing. And of course, after our meeting, when we first met, we discussed all the details of what was needed from us. And I liked her approach and responsibility she disposed to herself. After all, it's very important to find such a person with the same vision of the final picture, final work. It definitely strengthens, personally from my own experience. Because during the time of isolation, some new plans appear, whether you like it or not, but you come up with some common activities. You support each other, spend more time together. This is definitely a plus for us. And it's probably great that we are together here in Rio now. One way or another, it brought us together. Therefore, I wish everyone to go somewhere together, so there was no one, and there was no one else to see. This will definitely build a certain amount of trust and probably better relationships.